There was a man who once believed he could subdue time itself. A man who refused to accept death, who rejected the finite nature of humanity, and who believed that power could cross every boundary between life and the realm of death. That man was Qin Shi Huang. More than 2 millennia have passed, yet his name remains a symbol of strength, the obsession with power, and absolute loneliness in human history. While the vassal states were still at war, he unified all of China, establishing the Qin dynasty, the first imperial dynasty in the country's history. But along with the throne, he soon turned his mind to something no other ruler at the time dared to consider: preparing for life in the afterlife. As early as age 13, while still a crown prince, Qin Shi Huang ordered the commencement of his own mausoleum's construction. It was not just a tomb, but an underground universe designed for him to continue his reign after death. For the 38 years that followed, over 700,000 laborers were mobilized from across the empire to work relentlessly underground. They leveled mountains, filled rivers, dug tunnels dozens of meters deep, creating a colossal complex spanning over 40,000 square meters, equivalent to 5 international football fields. Beneath the surface, palaces were erected from wood and precious stones, replicating the entire capital of Shenyang in miniature form. In the long, labyrinthine corridors, clay warrior statues were arranged neatly, weapons in hand, faces directed toward the tomb's entrance, as if ready to charge into a battle that would never end. The mausoleum of Qin Shi Huang is the culmination of 2 seemingly contradictory things: an absolute belief in the order of power and an infinite fear of death. The ancient Chinese believed that the spirits of the dead continued their lives in the afterlife. For an emperor who had held the heavens in his grasp, ruling after death was an evident certainty. Therefore, his mausoleum was not a resting place, but a second imperial court, organized as strictly as the court above ground, complete with palaces, generals, an army, officials, and loyal servants for eternity. Yet behind this magnificent structure lay a peculiar desire, the aspiration to achieve immortality. Qin Shi Huang believed that humans could achieve eternal life through elixirs, through technology, and through the absolute control of reason. That is why he sent people far and wide to search for the elixir of life, dispatching fleets across the sea to Japan and Korea to find the Isles of the Immortals. When that failed, he turned to another path: immortality through power. If the body could not last forever, then his empire must live eternally, and the mausoleum was the symbol of that ambition. It can be said that throughout history, no tomb has ever been constructed with such a vision and scale. It not only demonstrates the power of the first emperor, but also serves as a testament to the deepest fear within a man: the fear of being forgotten, the fear of being swallowed by time. When humans reach the pinnacle of power, they begin to fight the one thing no one can conquer: death. And it is here, in the cold earth of Shanghai, that Qin Shi Huang posed a question humanity still cannot answer. Did he, in his pursuit of immortality, dare to cross the dangerous limits between science and occultism? between the light of knowledge and the darkness of ambition. In 1974, in the arid lands of Xi'an, a group of farmers digging a well in the midst of drought never imagined that their shovels would strike history itself. A terracotta face, cold yet lifelike, its hollow eyes seeming to stare straight through time. From that moment, an underground world of staggering scale began to emerge, the Terracotta Army of Emperor Qin Shi Huang. Nearly 8,000 warriors, hundreds of chariots, horses, and generals, each sculpted in full human size and uncanny detail. Stranger still, no two faces are alike. Every strand of hair, every wrinkle, every gaze carries a unique identity, leaving archaeologists astonished. How could ancient China, more than 2 millennia ago, achieve such precision? While Europe was still experimenting with primitive firing techniques, deep beneath the Qin mausoleum, artisans had reached a level of mastery that later generations would call technological mysticism. They not only refined and fired the clay at over 1,000 degrees Celsius, but also coated each figure with a special organic lacquer that preserved its colors for thousands of years. When modern light first touched the statues, traces of red, blue, and purple still gleamed on their armor, brilliant as if painted yesterday. Science tried to explain it, the result of an ancient lacquer coating technique using tree resin that resisted moisture and fading. Yet the more researchers studied, the more mysteries they uncovered. Some pigments contained compounds not found naturally in the region. Certain metallic and photochemical properties hinted at a knowledge of heat treatment and optics far beyond what the Qin era should have known. Experimental scientists called it a technological miracle of antiquity. But folklore told another story, that each statue was molded in the image of a real soldier who once lived and died, their spirits summoned to guard the emperor in eternity. Thus, each terracotta warrior was not just a sculpture, but a vessel, a host for the soul within. Those hollow eyes, were they truly empty? Many who gazed upon them felt a chill crawl up their spine, sensing that these warriors were still standing watch, still staring directly at the intruders who dared to disturb their master's eternal sleep. Could this be the ultimate expression of Qin Shi Huang's obsession with control? He sought not only to protect his body, but to ensure that his power itself would live forever, sealed within every grain of earth, every clay soldier. And in a cruel paradox, that very perfection is what now inspires fear. Science continues to search for answers, but legend endures. The Terracotta Army do not merely guard a tomb, they guard the secret of immortality. In the history of archaeology, there are stories so strange that even scientists must pause. Moments when the boundary between science and legend becomes almost invisible. One of the most haunting among them is the tale of the eternal flame, a light said to have burned for over 2,000 years in the underground tomb of Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of China. According to legend, when archaeologists opened one of the auxiliary chambers of the Qin mausoleum, they were astonished to find oil lamps still burning. Small flames, yet bright and unwavering, as if fueled by a power not of this world. Though many dismissed the story as myth, the parallels were uncanny. Ancient texts, such as Sima Qian's records of the Grand Historian, and accounts from other civilizations, Egypt, Greece, even ancient India, all described similar eternal lights that glowed for centuries inside royal tombs and sacred temples, known as eternal flames, symbols of divine immortality.
At first, modern scholars called it superstition, but as more evidence emerged across cultures, chemists began searching for a rational explanation. They discovered that no flame can truly burn forever, and that the mysterious light might in fact come from white phosphorus, a substance capable of spontaneous combustion when exposed to air, especially in sealed, humid environments like ancient tombs. Over thousands of years, phosphorus can naturally form from human bones as they decompose, creating faint bluish ghost lights, the same phenomenon known in folklore as will-o'-the-wisp, convincing ancient observers that they were seeing the glow of wandering souls. Science could explain the chemistry, but it could not erase the awe. In Eastern thought, and especially within the spiritual philosophy of ancient China, that light was never just fire. It was the emperor's spirit, a sign that he still ruled beyond death. In the geomantic beliefs of the old dynasties, flame within the tomb symbolized vital energy, the bridge between the worlds of the living and the dead. So the glowing lamps of the Qin mausoleum were not mere accidents of nature, but a message that the emperor's power still burned beneath the earth. Yet, even after science offered its explanation, unease remained. Archaeologists who entered the burial chambers spoke of a chilling cold, of echoes that seemed to breathe through the stone walls. Some dismissed it as imagination. Others whispered that the light was Qin Shi Huang's soul itself, still illuminating his eternal empire in the darkness below. And so the question endures. If that flame truly represents the emperor's undying will, then did Qin Shi Huang, in his obsession, actually find the eternal light he sought all his life? A flame that never dies, not because of fuel, but because of a man's will to defy death itself. From that strange glow arises a greater mystery still, the reason why, for over 2 millennia, no one has dared to fully excavate the tomb of the first emperor. Perhaps it is because that light is still burning.
For more than half a century since its discovery, the main burial chamber of Emperor Qin Shi Huang has remained one of the greatest forbidden zones in human archaeology. No one has dared to open the final gate leading to the resting place of the man who once unified and ruled all of China. Not because China lacks the technology, but because of fear. Fear of breaking an ancient balance, fear of lethal poisons, and fear of a curse whispered across millennia. Modern geological surveys using gamma spectrometry have revealed mercury concentrations in the soil around the tomb up to 380 times higher than normal. That astonishing number matches almost exactly the writings of the historian Sima Qian, who described rivers of mercury flowing around the emperor's coffin, representing the hundreds of rivers of the empire converging into one sea. In that eternal darkness beneath Mount Li, such a river of liquid silver may still be flowing, silently guarding its master, not with sorcery, but with death itself. Mercury, the most toxic metal on Earth, can vaporize at room temperature, and just a small breath of its fumes can destroy the human nervous system. Yet what truly terrifies archaeologists is not the poison, but the design of the tomb itself, a fortress of ancient mechanical engineering. Every corridor, every stone tile may conceal a weapon. Ancient texts describe automatic crossbows rigged to fire upon any intruder who opens a door. According to legend, these traps were forged of bronze, oiled to resist rust, and could still be deadly even after 2,000 years. The chambers are also believed to hide pits of quicksand, poisoned blades, and collapsing floors. One wrong step, and the explorer would vanish into the abyss. Generations of tomb robbers have tried their luck. None have ever returned. Locals believe the tomb is guarded not only by mechanical traps, but by the souls of the Terracotta Army themselves, still standing watch over their emperor. Some even claim that on moonless nights, a faint light seeps from the hill above the mausoleum, like the ghostly torches of Qin soldiers who never laid down their arms. And perhaps that is why, for over 2 millennia, the tomb of Qin Shi Huang remains untouched, a place where science meets superstition and curiosity bows before reverence. Humanity knows exactly where it lies, yet no one dares to disturb it. It endures as a monument to absolute power, a fortress of eternity, where even death must kneel. When we gaze upon the vast tomb of Qin Shi Huang, still sleeping beneath the earth, we are not merely looking at an archaeological site. We are staring into the dream of a man who sought to conquer death itself. The Terracotta Army was not just an army of clay, but a symbol of his desire to extend power beyond mortality. The eternal lamps that once burned in the dark were not lit for guidance, but as a challenge to the shadows of death. And the river of Mercury winding around his coffin like the veins of an underworld empire stands as the ultimate expression of his obsession with immortality. Qin Shi Huang was the man who turned impossible visions into reality, uniting all of China, standardizing currency, script, and law, building the Great Wall as the fortress of an empire destined to outlast time. Yet at the very height of his power, he sought to conquer the only enemy he could not defeat, time itself. He believed he could deceive death, that the elixir of eternal life would make him immortal. But tragically, the very potion he believed would grant him life was laced with mercury, a poison that slowly destroyed the body of the man who would be God. The death of the first emperor stands as the ultimate proof that while man may rule the world, he can never rule destiny. Qin Shi Huang built for himself an empire beneath the soil, yet even there, his glory and power remained buried in the same darkness he sought to escape. The legions of terracotta soldiers, the eternal flames, and the Mercury rivers now remain as relics of a dream that failed, a dream to outlive life itself. Today, as the modern world gazes upon his resting place, we see not just genius, but hubris, not just ancient science, but faith twisted into obsession. Humanity has advanced beyond the Qin dynasty's wildest imagination, and yet deep inside, we still fear what he once feared, the limits of our own existence. More than 2,000 years later, the tomb remains sealed, not because of mercury fumes or deadly traps, but because of the reverence and the fear of touching mankind's oldest temptation, the desire to transcend death. Perhaps that is Qin Shi Huang's true legacy, not the unification of China, but the eternal warning that those who try to become immortal will be buried within their own ambition.